Excuse me. Pardon me.
Hey, sit down.
What is going on, movie fans? Michael here for Flixist, and this is the first episode of Flixist Trailer Theater. And I want to break it in by breaking Guardians of the Galaxy! We actually been very much anticipating this for a long time. We got a little 15-second preview earlier today, and then it came out on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and this is pretty amazing stuff. They really take a lighthearted approach to this, and I'm going to explain a couple of little things that you might not understand from the trailer, and maybe get some people up to speed about Guardians of the Galaxy, instead of having to read through all the comics or go through Wikipedia pages and whatnot, and just kind of point out some of the more important stuff. So let's get started. I'm going to zoom this back as the audiences, approved for all audiences. So as we start off here, I'm actually going to play it with the sound so you can kind of get an idea. And let's just kind of see where we start off. So we're actually looking at Star-Lord, which has a very, very complicated history in the kind of comic universe that we just are kind of skipping over. They don't even show anything about it. But if you notice here, he's stealing something, basically. And the idea here is that Star-Lord was originally a NASA astronaut, and what ended up happening was Master of the Sun basically came in and visited the space station that he was on, and basically offered up this kind of space policeman sort of thing to him, which is the title of Star-Lord. He doesn't really get it. Somebody else that he was basically a dick to gets it. And there's a whole complicated process where he basically gets kicked out of NASA, steals a ship, comes back to the station, and kind of like takes back over that role that he really wanted. And then he has a lot of kind of revenge sort of things that go on in the background that he has to deal with. But as you can see, it just skips right through that with just, here's Star-Lord. And not really giving an explanation of really what Star-Lord is. So it's kind of misleading because they just kind of throw it at you as he's just kind of this, I don't know, he's basically like an outlaw, but he originally the title was supposed to be Space Policeman. So let's just kind of go through and see how they kind of portray his character right now.
No! Yeah, hey, cool, man. No problem. No problem at all. Star-Lord.
Who?
Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw.
As you notice right here, it's just like kind of like a nonchalant, kind of very grand of himself, but he knows that he's just not that grand sort of character dynamic that he has going on. Nobody really knows who he is. He's a very small fish in a very large ocean. So we kind of get this idea going through with him. And later on, you actually, when you see the full cast, you don't actually see some of the more notable things where Star-Lord is actually the one who brings Rocket Raccoon into the Guardians of the Galaxy. So that's kind of like another tie-in that they don't really cover in this. But as we go on, Marvel Comics logo, obviously, everything to get you excited.
We arrested these five on Xandar. Check out the rap sheets.
Drax, a.k.a. the Destroyer. Since his wife and family were killed, he's been on a rampage across the galaxy in a search for vengeance.
Now, one thing about Drax, if you notice, we'll just rewind this a little bit. Now, Drax is a little bit bulkier than his kind of comic book counterpart. He's known for being very violent, dual knives, but what people don't realize is he was originally human, and he was kind of transported into this body. And the reason why you'll start to see a lot of tie-ins from Marvel Phase 3 is because his family was actually destroyed by Thanos. Because Thanos just kind of thought that they saw him when they were out driving in the desert. So that basically happens. He gets his soul taken and put into a stronger body just so that he can actually battle Thanos. And then there's so many connections with him, and also a couple of more characters that you're about to see, and I'll explain through for that. As you can see here, he's got the kind of like scar-looking things on him, beat up. So Gamora here is actually a kind of lead-in for Drax, because Drax originally tried to kill Gamora because, guess what? Gamora is the adopted daughter of Thanos that has a whole betrayal thing and has a relation to a character that I'll go over at the end of this because he's not shown in the trailer.
Soldier.
She's very much deadly also, just like Drax, with the kind of combat. Now you can see Rocket Raccoon. They did a really nice job. As you can see, I'm going to bring out my mouse here. It might be a little bit harder to see, but just the amount of detail you could see in his face, his kind of body language and stuff going forward right now. You can see he's like got the snarl, his mouth's moving, just spits. So Groot, actually, this is kind of the second version of Groot, I would think. I'm not totally sure basically how they're going to set up this timeline, but the original Groot, well, if you want to go way back, the original Groot was a kind of like a bad guy, and he wanted to try to use humans as like test subjects sort of thing. So, but this Groot here, I'm thinking is basically the reincarnation sort of Groot that they had. Originally, back in the comics, he sacrificed himself by basically setting himself on fire, and he regrew. And so this, I think that's where this Groot is basically based off of right now. As you can see, so much detail. It looks really badass right here. And kind of a, you know, see that slalom face.
Quill. He's also known as Star-Lord. Who calls him that? Himself.
Now, as you notice this,
Himself, mostly.
so Quill here, as they say, I noticed...
Lord. Who calls him that?
Hold on, let's go back real quick. Sorry.
Quill.
Oop.
Peter Jason Quill.
So we have Peter Jason Quill. I was wondering if they skipped out a part of his name, but yeah, they said his full name. So that should be the kind of continued character. I don't think there's going to be too many changes of it, but obviously they don't know him for his, you know, NASA origins or the kind of space policeman origin. So he's just kind of looked at as a random thug at this point.
Lord. Who calls him that? Himself, mostly. He's wanted largely on charges of minor assault, public intoxication, and fraud.
So you notice right here, he basically just did the Jack-in-a-Box flip-off, and it's kind of interesting that we're seeing this character be very much this kind of goofball, and I think it's going to add a nice dynamic, but it does make you wonder if this movie is going to be less serious and more on the kind of comedic action sort of side. Marvel has had little rumblings that they're not going to be doing a sequel, which would be a shame if this turns out to be spectacular, but it looks like this is mostly going to be kind of a lead-in for all the Thanos lore and connecting sort of characters for Marvel Phase 3, as we are kind of going into Marvel Phase 2. So I think this is kind of like a lot of prep, but really interesting stuff, very colorful if you notice too. Marvel has done a really good job of actually keeping a lot of it, you see all these different colors, they're not going, you know, out of the way. They're actually sticking with what works in all the previous comic book movies, keeping it fun-loving, keeping it colorful. Keep going.
Sorry. I didn't know how this...
So, and the other thing I want to see, he has a sex crime right here. Do you notice he has one count of a sex crime? Manipulation. All right. But that's the other thing. But you can actually see his rap sheet is a lot less than everybody else's. You can see he has 1 count of fraud, 2 counts of assault, and he has a sex crime. So that must be pretty serious if you have an intergalactic sex crime on your record.
I don't know how this machine worked.
You see him going through, messing with his headset.
That's mine. Hey, take those headphones off right now.
And so right here, I believe this is the ship that Star-Lord actually controls, that he was given by the Sun. So I'm thinking that's where this is going, and I don't think that that is Rocket Raccoon's ship, because Rocket Raccoon also controls his own ship from previous comics, but it could go either way, depending on how exactly. But when you're actually looking at this, you'll notice that Star-Lord is kind of the one who is controlling it and piloting it going forward. You can see that the planet they're on, they're kind of in this kind of prison environment. Very beautiful, though. As you notice, the kind of look that she has going on here. Now, one of the interesting things here about specifically her character that is really dark. She's probably got one of the more darker things, and it actually how she becomes adopted by Thanos and kind of upgraded with some cybernetic implants. And I don't think that they're going to touch on this because it's really kind of serious, but she basically gets gang raped and beat to crap and almost killed. And that's kind of how she gets her cybernetic implants and stuff from Thanos, and gets the nickname the deadliest woman in the galaxy. So that kind of solemn character might come through. We don't know yet, obviously, because it's just a trailer. But those are kind of the different paths and stuff that we could possibly see going forward here. Let's see if... Okay, so now this character is kind of interesting because I don't know exactly who it is, but I'm guessing that this character right here. Oops, sorry, I guess it didn't show up real quick, but here, let me go back here because I had it clicked off screen. Sorry. You can see all these kind of like explosions going through. We'll go back real quick. Oops. Now, this character right here possibly could be Moondragon. So, Moondragon is a very powerful telepath, martial arts expert, and has a kind of just a huge arsenal at her hands. But one of the other things to know is that it's basically Drax the Destroyer's daughter that has been adopted by Thanos. So we have another Thanos tie-in character so far, and this is kind of shaping the direction of the kind of characters and the joining. But we don't know fully yet, but that's kind of one of the options. You can kind of see these kind of like techie sort of cybernetic things, but the color scheme's a little bit off because Moondragon is mostly known for the kind of green, but the bald head and the kind of the eyes and everything, that is very reminiscent of Moondragon. So we go through, we see she's just whooping ass. She probably did a lot of damage to this place before getting here. As you can see here, I really do think that this is probably Moondragon, double blades, and just it looks like causing a lot of havoc. So this might be a main sort of villain here leading into Thanos because of the just the direct connections.
They call themselves the Guardians of the Galaxy.
What a bunch of a-holes.
So you can see right here. So Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously, it's ending on kind of a funny note. Everybody's just kind of very aloof while they're basically in a lineup. As you can see here, I believe, let's see, we have Star-Lord, he's just yawning. Everybody's just kind of looking around, wondering, what's this going on? Rocket Raccoon just looks bored. He's just like, can we get this over with? So that's the kind of thing that we're looking at. And yeah, so this is Guardians of the Galaxy. I hoped you'd like our run-through with it. As you notice, 8/1/14. This is definitely something that I'm going to be looking forward to. We're basically 6 months out right now, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy for you. You know, no Warlock in this. Who knows? We might see it later. It might be a character. It's one of the big leaking characters for the Guardians of the Galaxy, but you know, then again, who knows? It's just a trailer, so leave it up to you to do wild speculation, and I hope everybody goes and sees this. This looks fun. Thanks for watching.